If you've been struggling with lower back pain, you might be thinking the problem is your back. Well, surprise, might not be your back. The problem might be your weak abs. Hi, my name is Wobbly. I am a certified personal trainer. I've been a certified personal trainer for about 20 years now. And back pain is a subject that is near and dear to me. You might have read my blog, but I had a personal experience with back pain a little while ago when I decided I was going to be smart and try and move my washing machine myself. Don't recommend it. But the fallout from that was that, oh, well, I think other people have this problem. I know a lot of my clients ended up with back pain from situations like mine. Yes, I should have learned from it, but I didn't. Move something around the house, and then suddenly you have back pain. However, I also realized that a lot of my clients or a lot of the people I talk to don't have that situation. They didn't do the stupid thing and pick up something heavy and then go, oh my God, my back. They just have back pain and they have no idea why. In today's video, I'm going to break down how a weak TVA can lead to core instability and back pain. We are going to discuss habits and postures that can contribute to or are caused by a weak core or weak TVA. Then we're going to do an assessment because let's face it, right? How do you know? It's super important to be able to figure out, is it your abs that are weak or is it really your back? And then finally, I'm going to go over some exercises that you can do at home that can help you increase your TVA strength, improve your core instability, and hopefully get rid of the dang pain. However, don't forget, it is super important that you talk to your doctor or a medical professional if you've been suffering from back pain for a significant amount of time, or if you had an acute injury, you're lifting something that, my back, so definitely if you haven't talked to a doctor, do that first because you don't want to make things worse, right? And I'm real good at my job, but I'm not a doctor. So please do us both a favor and do that first. If you've already seen your doctor though, and you're free to exercise, stick with me. I think today we'll be able to take some steps towards resolving your back pain. One of the most common misconceptions about back pain is that, oh, my back is just tight, or oh, it's just because I stood too long. Oh, I have terrible posture, so I have back pain. Yes, all those things can contribute to back pain, but they're not usually the thing to blame all in of themselves. Common instances of causes of back pain or areas where you feel it. Pregnancy, a huge one. Lifting a lot, pushing out, that'll do it. Oh, my favorite one that nobody ever tells you about, gas. If you love that food and it causes you to get bloated, guess who distends and stops working? So you'll discover, you're like, oh, my food I ate, now my back hurts. What's going on? Gas. So you have back pain. We're wondering why. We want to fix it. What's the problem? Who's to blame for all of this? Well, in this instance, we are talking about your transversus abdominis. Your transversus abdominis is one of your 4 abdominal muscles. Well, some people say pyramidalis is a muscle, but we'll talk about that later. And so how do you know that your TVA is to blame? A lot of the times it'll be because when you're standing, you'll get tired, your back will hurt or get achy. Same thing for sitting for long situations. The famous toothbrush reach, you get to reach for the toothbrush, you're like, oh, is my back? Yeah, a lot of the times it's your TVA. Now, here's the thing about your transversus abdominis. It is the deepest muscle of the 4 abdominals. It's responsible for stabilizing your ribs over your pelvis. It's a sheet that continues here. Now, here's the cool thing about the TVA. It actually connects onto the back here where the ribs are and then wraps around and then connects right in the middle there on your linea alba. Okay. Now, why would your TVA be weak? There's a lot of reasons that it could be weak. One, you could just be deconditioned, you sit a lot, you don't exercise. That's one of the most common causes. Another really common cause, pregnancy or rapid weight gain. everything pushes out and you lose a little bit of that contractibility. Now, those are causes that are not acute. Like you didn't hurt yourself. You didn't try and pick something up and then, oh, well, pregnancy, but that's another thing. And so, yeah, so those are ways that you could just happen to have a weak TVA that contributes to back pain without anything really happening. You didn't injure yourself. Now, one of the really important things to know about your TVA is that it is basically the human girdle. Without your TVA, your body has a really hard time stabilizing the spine. You can almost think about it as a weight belt, right? So anytime you lift something up, it's supposed to be there to protect your back. So if your TVA is weak, you don't have someone protecting your back. So your TVA is really important to spinal stability. The worst part is if you don't do anything about it, it gets worse. And what happens when you have a weak muscle is you tend to develop compensations. Things like slouching, because then your spine is shorter. That means technically you have more stability, but try turning, lifting, balancing, or doing anything really quickly when you're crouched over like that. It doesn't work quite as well. And then on top of that, the back pain will get worse. And then the worse the back pain gets, some more compensations you develop. And then comes the fun hip pain. So what am I trying to say? Get on top of it as soon as you can. So let's get started. So how do you know that the problem is in fact your abdominals and not your back? Well, thankfully, that's actually super easy to do. So there's two ways that we're going to discuss of doing it. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead, you're going to find a nice spot where you can lie down really nice and flat on the floor. You're going to need like 1 minute to 5 minutes. So I would go ahead and set a timer on your phone or iPad or watch or what have you. So you're going to go ahead, you're going to lie down, legs straight. You're just going to relax there for a while and rate your comfortableness. So if you're like, oh, well, this is super comfortable, my back feels so much better, make a note of that. And then go ahead and bend your knees. So your feet are going to be flat on the floor. Your back is going to be just wherever you feel like it's most comfortable. And you're going to kind of lie there for the same amount of time. And then does it feel better? Is this like, oh, this is so much better than like when my knees were like my straight? It was so uncomfortable. My back was immediately starting to get tired. Go ahead and make a note of that. Now, the question is, which position was the most uncomfortable? If having your legs straight was the most uncomfortable position, that's probably because you have weak abs. Meaning that if your knees were bent and then you're like, oh my gosh, okay, now I feel so much better. My knees are bent, totally took the stress off my back. Yeah, that's your abs. So if you're the opposite and like having your knees bent, that's uncomfortable, then it is your back that's the issue. Don't worry, we'll talk about that in another video. For this video, we are going to stick to abs. Excellent. So moving on to assessment 2. Now, you've identified part of the problem. Your abs are the weak thing. How weak are they? Is it just deconditioning and you just need to do a little bit of exercise? Or are these puppies just not firing? And this will give you an idea of where you want to get started. So what you're going to do is you're going to lie down on the floor again, legs straight. You're going to pull your belly button in, trying to bring your lower back to the floor. Doesn't have to touch the floor. It just has to kind of go inward. Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to try to hold that position for 5 seconds. You're going to count them out. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. Now, if you're able to accomplish that, yay, congratulations. Yes, your abs are probably weak, but you can go ahead and start doing the exercise, again, with doctor's permission, that are a little bit more advanced. In other words, you can kind of just jump into your planks, yada, 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 do all that stuff, and your abs should get stronger. Now, if you are unable to hold it for that 5 seconds or pull your lower back towards the floor at all, now we're talking. But don't worry, I got you covered. We're going to actually start from there and then progress you forward. For my folks that are able to do that, go ahead and check the description, you'll find a link to my core conditioning program. You're ready to get started. Go ahead and log in and you'll get the exercise program that you need to help you get stronger now. For those folks of you that weren't able to do it, stay tuned. Let's go over those exercises. So we've done the assessment. Your TVA is weak. We got to get it stronger. So what we're going to do is we're going to move to our first exercise. You're going to go ahead. You're going to lie down on the floor, either with your legs straight or your legs bent. And you're just going to start by breathing. Okay. And I want you to try and notice if you feel like your abs are kind of like just falling in naturally towards your spine. So really just try and relax into it. Give yourself anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes again, just to really start to learn to feel your body. The TVA contraction is one of the most subtle contractions. It's one of the hardest ones to teach. It's not like just bicep curling. You actually have to try and feel what's going on. And that sensation of your abdominals kind of falling in towards your spine is actually your TVA contracting, right? So what we're going to try to do there is trying to build on that sensation. So once you feel that TVA fall in, we want you to continue to pull in. Now, here's the thing. The TVA does not flex the spine. The lines of the muscle actually go this way. If it was going to do something, it would either pull apart or pull together, but it wouldn't flex you forward or flex you back. That's your rectus abdominis. That's that six-pack muscle. That's a completely other kettle of fish, okay? And on top of that, crunching, sit-ups, if you have back pain, verboten. Definitely something that we don't want to do, but we'll cover that in another video. Ab exercises, crunches, and sit-ups are actually the least effective abdominal exercises. But anyways, I digress. Let's move forward to our exercise. So you're lying there, your stomach's falling in, you're building on that sensation, and that's what you're going to check. You're going to check to make sure that your spine doesn't move. So in other words, your lower back shouldn't suddenly move further towards the ground. It shouldn't arch. It should be just still. Also, your abdominals shouldn't suck in. This is not like sucking in your guts when you're trying to like show up in the bikini or you're running around in your swim trunks and your belly's out and you go, suck it in. No. That's a completely different thing again. With your TVA, everything should just stay exactly the same. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your hands on your stomach. You're going to pull in and you're going to build on that sensation. And if you feel your belly drop in a lot, you know that's not the one. So you're going to keep practicing until you can get it so that your belly doesn't really move. Now, if it sinks in like a little tiny bit, like about that much, we're good. Because it is a contraction. It's going to flatten, right? But it's not going to suck in. And so that's the difference. So once you've mastered that, we're ready to move on to the next exercise. So next exercise is going to be pelvic tilting. So what happens with a lot of people with weak abdominals or particularly weak TVA is a lot of time their lower back will arch. So the butt will come out behind them and their lower back will really stick out a lot, okay? One way you can tell and see this is going on is by checking your pubic bone. Yeah, that's a little, well, not that awkward, but anyways. So what is your pubic bone? Your pubic bone, if you were to put your hands on your hips, let me grab my guy. Let's see if we can get him. Oops, sorry about that, guys. Let's see if we can get him, his pubic bone into the shot. All right, so here it is. That's loose pubic bone. So if you were to just bring your hands down your stomach, the first really hard bony part that you reach, that's your pubic bone. Okie doke. All right, let's put him back and out of the picture. Okay, so once you've identified your pubic bone, you're going to want to find out where it's pointing. If it's perfectly flat, yay, we're in business. That's kind of where we want to be, okay? So if you're perfectly flat, you can go ahead, pull in on your abs. You're going to bring your pubic bone up, and then you're going to bring it back down. And this is just so you can practice a neutral spine, is what I would call it, or a neutral pelvis. If you're lying there, okay, so you're going to put your hands on like the very top. Let's go down on again. The very top of your pelvis with your hand on your pubic bone so that your hands are nice and flush and flat. You're going to look at your hands. And if your hands are pointing straight ahead, you're good. If they're pointing straight down or straight up, less so. then you know that you're in either an anterior pelvic tilt, pointing down, or a posterior pelvic tilt, pointing up. And the goal is going to be getting that spine into that middle place. Now, those people with weak TVAs don't tend to have a posterior pelvic tilt. They tend to have an anterior pelvic tilt. So that's probably what we're going to be doing. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull in your abs, flattening or bringing your lower back towards the floor. Now, you don't have to go all the way to a posterior pelvic tilt, particularly not to start. We just want to really be able to get to that neutral pelvis, okay? So you're going to lie down. You're going to breathe. You're going to find your abdominals. You're going to pull in the TVA like you were doing before. Then you're going to continue pulling in on the TVA, and we're going to allow for that motion. You're going to bring your lower back a little bit towards the floor until you've reached a posterior tilt, or you've got that perfect neutral spine going. Then you're going to relax back out again. And you're going to continue doing that. You're going to do that 10 times, and you're going to hold each time for 5 seconds, okay? So those are going to be the 2 exercises I'm going to start you off with, because that's where you want to start if you can't stabilize your spine, if when you were doing the assessment, you couldn't get your lower back to the floor. Now, that's going to be weeks 2 to 6, depending on how long it takes for you to master all those things. Once you've mastered those 2 exercises, the 2 other exercises I would love you to add to that are going to be your bird dog and your tabletop plank. So you've learned how to contract your TVA. You've learned your 2 first exercises. Hopefully things are going well. If you're feeling ambitious and you want to add these other 2 exercises to it and you don't want to wait the 2 to 4 weeks, you could actually probably go ahead. Now, they're going to be a little bit less successful, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't start there. It'll just give you more time to really kind of learn the exercise, right? So the 2 next exercises I'm going to want you to learn how to do are your tabletop, and that's going to be a reverse kind of plank thing that we're going to show you in a second, and bird dogs. One of my favorite, most underrated exercises of all time. Everybody gets into them like, so easy. If you're doing your bird dog and it feels easy, I promise you, you're doing them wrong unless you've been doing your bird dogs for years. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over your tabletop and then your bird dog. So the tabletop, you're going to lie down. You're going to bring your arms up in the air. You're going to make sure that they're nice and level with your shoulders. You're going to bring your legs up into the air. They're going to be 90-90, 90 degrees at the knee, 90 degrees at the hip, so that your thigh is perpendicular to the floor. Perfect, okay? Keeping the knees, the feet up. You don't want the knees bent. You don't want them up. Your knee is going to be perfect 90 degrees as well. So you're going to go ahead. You're going to hold that position in a neutral spine, right? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to lie down. You're going to find your hips. You're going to put your hands on your pelvis. Find that neutral spine, right? Just like we discussed. And then what you're going to do is you're going to bring your arms up, making sure your hips don't move. You're going to anchor those abs, engage that pelvic floor and your TVA. Pelvic floor is a different video, but don't worry about the pelvic floor. TVA should be able to do the job for you without the pelvic floor. So abs tight, TVA tight, hips neutral spine, bring one leg up to 90 degrees. Make sure that that hip is still neutral. Bring the other leg up to 90 degrees. Make sure you slide the shoulder blades down. Keep them away from your ears. Try and breathe and hold that perfect neutral spine. Now, that is more work than you might think it is. So I want you to start again at that 5-second mark. Maybe do it 10 times. And then we'll gradually increase from there. Check the descriptions. I'll have some notes for you to help you get that done. And then once you can master that, we're going to probably take you up about 30 seconds before we start adding another few exercises, okay? Next, I'm going to have you do a bird dog. So it's the exact same position, but reversed, right? So you're going to be on all fours. Again, shoulders down, wrists aligned with your shoulder, knees 90 degrees aligned with the pelvis. And what you're going to do is you're going to slide one arm forward, one leg out behind you, and you're going to try and make sure first not to move your pelvis. So in other words, when your leg lifts, you want to make sure that your tailbone isn't lifting when your leg does. Your tailbone is going to stay in neutral spine. So even before you start to do your bird dogs, you're going to want to just be able to make sure that you can identify your neutral spine. Now, here's a fun way to do it. You can take a foam roller and place it across the base of your back. I have a fairly round butt, and I can do it. So the size of your butt is not going to affect the foam roller. So go ahead and use the foam roller. So you can put the foam roller across the small of your back, looks like if you were balancing a book on your head, and then try sliding your leg out and getting it to be at hip height. Now that is not the ultimate goal. Just getting it off the ground with a straight knee is actually sufficient. As you progress the exercise, then we can worry about getting it higher, because that's a completely other kettle of fish again. Your abdominals have to be able to contract hard enough to maintain both your spine as and your pelvis as your leg comes out behind you. So the lower the leg, the easier it is to contract. The moment that leg hits the air, it really starts to get difficult. So you want to be able to just make sure you can slide those legs out behind you. Same thing with the arms, without flexing here or tucking the tailbone, okay? And then you can progress it into the full bird dog. So those are the exercises that I would love you to do to be able to build a stronger TVA, a more stable deep core, and hopefully eliminate or at least control that back pain. Now you have your exercises. So small, dirty truth, ab exercises are for life, or exercise is for life. Think of it this way, guys, right? If you had a car and you had the same car from the time you were born till now, how much maintenance would you have to put on that car? You do have a car that you had since you were born and are still using right now. And imagine how much maintenance it needs. So all exercise should really be maintenance for your body. Well, maybe not all, but you know what I mean, right? Like you're trying to keep your body together, keep things functioning. You got to clean it, you got to repair it, you got to feed it, you got to maintain it, right? So please keep doing these exercises. The good news is it won't be the very same ones. You can progress them. All exercises are ab exercises at the end of the day. So you're not going to be stuck doing the same thing forever, but you definitely should keep moving. Walking is one of the single best exercises for your abdominals. So even if you don't want to do formal exercises, once you've got this ab area under control, walk. You know, you might need to revisit these exercises every now and then, depending on how much time you spend in a chair, if you're an office worker or you're a driver. But revisit them, get things back together, keep it incorporated in your day-to-day. If you would like to get the videos and the description of all the stuff that I talked about in this video printed out or in printables, please go ahead and check out the description. You'll be able to find links to the videos themselves, perhaps the PDFs as well. And if you want that 5-day core workout, once you finish with your TVA retraining, please go ahead and check the description as well. You should find the links there too. Well, that's it from me for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you next time. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and get notifications. See you next time.